Good morning, everybody. This is John Aaron. Welcome to our webinar, Maximizing Project Management Productivity and Value Using the Primms Cloud Solution. I'm President and Lead Consultant and Trainer and Contract Project Manager for the company. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about value and the use of the Primms tool that our company offers. Essentially, our topics to be covered, we want to give you a very brief introduction to myself and speak quite a bit about the concept of productivity and value through excellence and execution. I think that's a topic that is extremely important in project management, and our tool does, and our methodology really emphasizes that. And so the goal would be to speak about the tool, but also quite a bit about execution and tricks and tips related to that. We'll also take a brief look at the operation of the tool, and I'm going to be showing you quite a few slides that are taken from the tool. So it hopefully will be very interesting for you, and you'll get a lot out of this. And then we'll talk a bit about getting started for those of you that might be interested in pursuing this further for your organizations. And then, of course, we want you to take the survey that we'll be sending out. So to get started, I'll tell you very briefly about myself. Essentially, I started in the project management business in the 70s. I started my occupation as electronics technician coming out of the military for a brief period, and went through electronics school and came out and really was involved in marketing and product development in these industries and for a couple of companies, and I was also pursuing an economics degree. Then I took a sort of a career shift and joined DeVry. I ran their master's program, which was one of about 2 master's level programs in project management at the time, and of course the industry has substantially grown. And then we started a division for consulting and training, and then in 1995, made a career shift, so to speak, and we started our own company, Milestone Planning and Research, and we do contract project management, consulting, coaching, and in 2008 we started the Primms development with myself and my colleague Jameer Khan. Basically, background-wise, my career in projects over the last 20 years has been ERP, SAP, and business transformation, information technology, both infrastructure and application development, product development, R&D, and defense and aerospace. So it's I've been around a while. And essentially, if I was to just really kind of give kind of some direction to our discussion here, it really starts with an assessment of what's changed over the 20 years and what has not. What has not really have been the fundamental tools and techniques. As far as I can see, that essentially approaches like work breakdown structures and PERT and Gantt and so on, those have been around for a long time, and they're still very prominent types of tools. The PMBOK hasn't really changed too much. Certification process hasn't changed much, and human beings haven't changed much. And but what has changed has been technology. What you see is technology has entered many areas that can range from construction to some areas of course, information technology. But it's been ubiquitous in that it has spread in many different areas, and that has changed the nature of things, especially in terms of complexity. The project management community has changed. It has gone from a construction and engineering basis or a focus to more towards other business areas, including IT, and the size of the community has grown substantially. Refinement in methodology has changed. The sensitivity towards time and speed and focus, and all of a sudden the development of things away from just a standard waterfall approach, more towards agile methodologies and looking at that. And then also the integration of portfolio management has been substantial, as opposed to just looking at one big project and focusing on that. The industry also has to worry about that we don't die from 1,000 cuts, where we have a lot of little projects and they all make a very complex situation. So complexity is accelerating. That's a key point, and execution is really the key to success. And so what we're looking at then, when we use the term productivity, what we're looking at is how do we find ways to increase output, such as the number of projects for a given input, or reducing input? How can we keep output the same, of course? And then value would be the benefits versus the costs that we get with projects. And this could go into the realm of project selection, for instance, as well as execution. So these are some considerations, and the key thing is that we see complexity accelerating, execution being the focus here and dealing with that. Now, some constraints that we have, no matter which direction we want to go with products and methods in project management, it's really based on ourselves. We have our own limitations, and basically the way to maybe think of this is how we're wired. If we look at some of the products out there like mind mapping and so on, we know that first of all, we don't have a complete handle on the brain, but we do know that we have our cortex is hierarchically oriented. We have about 6 layers of it, very complex. And as it turns out, that a lot of these project management tools that have come and been developed are really kind of mirror images of how our minds work. And so this has served us very well, but we have to at least consider these kinds of constraints that we might have. So when we look at problems frequently encountered in project management, it often can be traced to basically kind of how we're structuring our world, such as insufficient aggregation. We stay at too low a level, and you're dealing with complex projects that may have 6,000 activities and hundreds of thousands of objects and so on. It becomes extremely difficult if we don't operate at the correct level. In some cases, the problem is just the reverse. We don't disaggregate. We stay at too high a level, and we try to manage complexity without enough detail. In some cases, overall project complexity can just be overwhelming. And there's certain limits to our own informational capacity to process information. Miller's Law, for instance, 4 bits of or 4 bytes of information we can actually manage. And then sometimes we find that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, meaning that if we just kind of use the traditional WBS where we look at the low level, it's also important to look at the big picture. So what we find is that simplified tool design and reporting design with principles of, we'll say, Gestalt, meaning looking at the big picture, not just the individual little pieces, which is sort of traditional in project management, that can take us a long way towards improving execution. And what we want to do is really kind of focus on how can we simplify execution in this increasingly complex world. And we'll be talking about it from a process standpoint, but also how we've tried to achieve these objectives using the Primms tool, the design that we've created. So in terms of the tool itself, this is a cloud solution, software as a service. If you go on the web and you type www.myprimms.com, it takes you, and you go to the login, it'll take you to a secure site using SSL encryption. We have to ensure that security is key here, because one of the benefits is speed and convenience going on the Internet, but we have to also make sure that we're adequately secure. And we have this on the cloud, as shown, where it's a shared database, but we also can work with clients who need in-house hosting, where you would be operating just in your own private database. So we have that capability to do that. And when you go into the tool, what you'll see is that it is designed to give you what we'll call a lean portfolio and project management system. So basically it has a portfolio component of 3 groups. It has a project management component, and basically it's operational for a recurring planning cycle, say once a year, where a group of executives would come together and say, this is what we want to do this year or this 6 months or whatever, and then we put these and we would then execute those in the project management part. Project managers would do that. But we also have to be sensitive to what happens in our planning when we get what we might call the Nth+1 project or projects. These are the anomalies. They might be the sudden opportunities that emerge or the sudden threat that emerges that kind of take priority and precedence over things that may upset the apple cart, so to speak. So what we want to do is kind of lay this out, and what we're going to be showing is that in the Primms tool, we have a request and justification approval process. That's a key part. It then creates a pool of requests that collect information, and if need be, if we wanted to nurture and